going on, Jerome's? Happy Tuesday. A lot of random things going on in Minnesota fighting Vikings land, so we want to dive on in. Here is your Vikings news dump for Tuesday, September 19th. Nailed it. First up, so Vikings allegedly off to an 0-2 start, and everyone and their mom is talking about what's going to happen with Justin Jefferson. He hasn't signed his long-term extension yet with the Vikings. Would the Vikings even consider trading him? And FanDuel decided to stir the pot a little bit. So the Patriots got exposed on Sunday Night Football for lack of offensive playmakers on the outside, and Justin friggin' Jefferson, they connected the dots a little bit. So they proposed a trade between the Patriots and the Vikings where the Patriots send a 2024 first-rounder, a 2024 third-rounder, and a 2025 first-rounder to the Vikings for Justin friggin' Jefferson. Now, that would load the Vikings up significantly with draft capital to go after the quarterback of the future. They would have 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years, sure. But I can't do it. I can't do it, man. Justin Jefferson is a potentially generational talent, a potential future first ballot Hall of Famer, and you don't get better just by giving away talent like that. Now, yes, Jefferson may have some questions about who's quarterback of the future is going to be, and yeah, the Vikings still have some planning issues after Kirk Cousins, who's going to be the guy, but can't do it. I just can't do it, man. Plus, you know that this isn't going to be like Randy Moss going to Oakland, where he had a couple of whatever years, and then he lit it up with the Patriots. Like, the fact that there was a gap made it hurt less, but giving away talented players in their prime for no good reason, I don't know, man. I don't know. Speaking of talented players coming into with the Vikings, it's Dalton Risner. So it was announced that he had signed with the Vikings on Monday, and he circled back to his viral tweet back on September 11th when he tweeted out a picture of departures at the Denver International Airport, and think emoji. Now, we didn't get confirmation of where he went, but now he says one-way ticket to MSP. Now, did he go to Minneapolis that day? Probably not, but it's kind of funny, man. It still is kind of funny because our conspiracy, man, looking at all the flights, tracking things, Delta's the official airline of the Minnesota Vikings, so it's funny. Either way, a Riser's going to be in the building. He's going to have a full week of practice, and his ass is probably going to start against the Chargers, man. Then someone else who's going to start against the Chargers, Ivan Pace Jr., UDFA superstar, the pride of Cincinnati. And we've said this ad nauseum where he's a prodigious pass rusher, 9.5 sacks his final season at Cincinnati. And he's a great off-ball linebacker. He's great at run fills. He's great at leadership in the middle of the defense, but also he's fantastic at rushing the passer. He just has a nose for it, and I think the Vikings will eventually use him the way that the Cowboys use Micah Parsons. No big deal. But Sam Munson, the Irishman over at PFF, tweeted this out. Ivan Pace Jr. currently has the best pass rush win rate in the NFL at 42.9%. Chris Jones racked up 40.7% in his return. Next best is Rashawn Gary, allegedly, at 33.3%. Now, sample size is not huge, especially for an off-ball linebacker. He does have 4 pressures on 15 pass rushing snaps. He does have half a sack as well, and small sample size, but it's very promising. And the fact that he's a mainstay in the Flores defense, and I think that he's going to be a fun toy with Flores, who loves bringing heat. Of course, the Vikings are blitzing at like 47% for the season. No big deal. Something that is a bit of a big deal. So KJ Osborn, I love me some KJ. He is going to bounce back. It's clear that Mattison is wide receiver 2 on this team, and Osborn hasn't done himself any favors in the first 2 games. Vikings fan page tweeted this out. KJ Osborn, 47.1, has the lowest PFF grade out of any wide receiver in the NFL. Osborn is second in the NFL in drops, too, only 2 weeks in. But let's hope KJ can bounce back in a contract year. PFF actually dinged KJ for 3 drops, 1 in Tampa, 2 against the Eagles, and the 2 against the Eagles were bad. Were really, really bad. But, drops haven't really been a thing about KJ. I don't know what's going on, but I have faith in him. I think that he's a talented dude, and I think that he will bounce back. And I do think that he will settle back into that great wide receiver 3 role, and it's clear that Kirk still trusts him in clutch time. So hopefully 17 gets it together, man. Got faith. Also got faith that the Minnesota Vikings will get back to the winning ways as they host the similarly 0-2 San Diego Superchargers, who are now I'm just going to call them San Diego. because they're going to be back in San Diego in a hot second. But San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, kind of like what they do with the Anaheim Angels. But the Vikings did open up as 1-point favorites. Now, part of that is the betting public. I mean, people and the casual money love to bet against the Vikings, bet against Kirk Cousins. It happens all the time. But basically what they're saying is home field is worth 3 points traditionally. And the Chargers don't really have a fan base that travels well, so that could actually be worth a little bit more. But they're saying that the Vikings versus the Chargers on a neutral field would be 4-point dogs. Okay. Not quite buying that, but certainly taking the Vikings money line. Damn the torpedoes. Also, I think this is a chance to be a shootout where Chargers defense is super bad. Flores' defense, they're opportunistic, except they will give it away now at times. And I think this is going to be a shootout. I think there's going to be 2 great offenses going back and forth, even though the Chargers could be potentially without Austin Eckler. He did miss a Week 2 game at Tennessee with an ankle injury. Also, Eric Hendricks missed a game with a hamstring. Brandon Staley, who's got to be on the hot seat. I mean, his ass might get fired after this game. Said there's no timeline to return from Eckler for his ankle injury. And you know what? Super talented dude, super tough competitor, and that would be a big loss for them again. But I still think that this is going to be a shootout. I really do. So a couple of jelly beans and ducats on the over 54, maybe part of a teaser. Tease that thing up to Vikings plus 7. Plus a touchdown and over 48. I'll take that. Man. Something I'll also take is TJ became the Steelers' all-time career sack leader. Now, they didn't include the pre-1982 sacks, which we'll get to in a second, but he did pass James Harrison. TJ Watt, of course, super talented, probably a future Hall of Famer very easily, and go from there. But it got me thinking about the Vikings all-time sack list. Now, this is from Pro Football Reference, and they did yeoman's work. They literally went through every single game tape they could find, and they compiled sacks ahead of 1982, because sack wasn't an official stat before 82. So guys like Deacon Jones, guys like Carl Eller, like all of their sacks didn't count. They're just tackles of the quarterback, which is ridiculous. But the Vikings all-time list, again, this is including Pro Football Reference's own work. So Carl Eller at the top at 130.5, Jim Marshall, who should be a Hall of Famer, at 128, Jumpin' John Randall 114, which is insane for interior pass rusher. Just absolutely, everyone is on Aaron Donald's ass, of course, but rightfully so. But I mean, John Randall is just that dude. Alan Page also 108.5, another defensive tackle getting after it. Dolman 96.5, rest in power. Jared Allen 85.5 with the Vikings. Everson 79.5. Daniil at 75, also is still only 29, coming in October. So he has a chance, especially if and when he gets extended in purple, to add to that total. Doug Martin, not the running back, I guess. B-Rob, Kevin Williams, Henry Thomas. Henry Thomas having 56 sacks as a Viking as a nose tackle. Absolutely bat bleep insane. Keith Millard, my guns are bigger than yours, 53. Mark Mullaney, sure. Lance Johnstone. I mean, Lance Johnstone put up 41 sacks over 5 seasons. That's pretty damn good. That's not bad, man. Gary Larson. Oh yeah, the fourth guy in the Purple People Eaters. He's the Ringo of the Vikings Purple People Eaters Beatles. Ray Edwards, boxing legend Ray Edwards, Sugar Ray Edwards at 29.5. Al Noga at 29.5 as well. It's kind of crazy, man. I mean, just all that history, and just imagine having Eller, Marshall, Page, and Gary Larson on the same defensive line. Baby, you got a stew going. Come on, man. Come on. Also, for a hot second, their defensive line coach was Buddy Ryan, which is just crazy. Also crazy and unfortunate is Rap Sheet. Go. Lions defensive back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is feared to have suffered a torn pec in Sunday's game, sources tell me, and Mike Garafalo. The playmaker has been a big part of the Detroit's defense, now out indefinitely, potentially for the season. And you do really hate to see it. Even in rivals, Gardner Johnson was the heart and soul of that back end of the Lions defense, completely transforming their secondary in free agency in this past offseason, and that would be a big loss. That would be a major, major loss for Detroit. So, again, it's unfortunate to see, but it is noteworthy as the Vikings and Lions look destined to clash for this division. And going out on the Mattison note, so Mattison addressed the media about what went on after the game and all the terrible messages and DMs that he got, and he shared a couple of them on social media, and brought light to, fortunately, what these athletes face every single day. Now, you could say, well, they make a lot of money, they should be able to take the heat. No, I mean, they're human beings at the end of the day, and just because someone makes a lot of money and has a high-profile career does not give people the right to say horrible things about them. Now, criticizing them or criticizing the play is one thing, but threatening them, threatening their family, being just hateful and bigoted and racist, no, that does not give you the right. It doesn't. But Gessling, go. Mattison talked to a group of reporters today about the social media vitriol he received after the Vikings lost in Philadelphia. He said he talked with CJ Ham for a while about the comments and went public to bring to light something that happens way too much. And it really sucks to say, but this happens after every single loss, after every single bad performance. Like, someone will slide in the DMs and just say really horrible, hateful stuff. Now, a lot of people automatically think they're Vikings fans. Maybe not necessarily. Maybe there's someone who had Mattison on the fantasy team, or or if a player costs someone a bet. I mean, people, when there's money and maybe a couple of cocktails, maybe a couple of altering substances involved, people get really brave behind a keyboard, and it's just cowardice. It really is. And Mattison continued, I'm trying to move past it, but it is something that I feel like the platform let's try that again. But it is something that I feel like the platform should make it some type of way where these people making these profiles have to provide some kind of information. You shouldn't be walking around doing stuff like this and be able to hide behind that. Maybe you're in a position where you have a career where you're interacting with people. You shouldn't be able to interact with people like that without going through some type of repercussions and growth after making statements like that. And it is the anonymity that gives people the courage to say something that they would have zero balls to say face to face. And I don't know. I don't know if there's a good answer. I think people, well, yeah, I mean, you even see on Facebook, like, people with their real name and their real pictures and like pictures of their kids. I mean, they're still going after athletes and celebrities, with Facebook. So maybe that's not even the answer. I don't think people really care, but I don't know, just people are horrible. People need to remember it's a game. People need to remember that these athletes and coaches, and hell, even the referees too. I mean, the referees get it like 10 times as bad sometimes, but I mean, they're humans too. They make mistakes. They're fallible, and they don't deserve to be treated like that just because they make a lot of money and they're on TV. All right, that's all. All right. Speaking of a lot of money, I feel like I should get $1 for every conspiracy theory I get right. No big deal. No big deal, man. But your thoughts are thoughts. Vikings Tuesday news dump. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.